Vlad II, or Vlad the Dragon, was the voivode of Wallachia, Romania from 1436 to 1447. He was the father of the famous Vlad the Impaler, who is also known as Dracula. During his reign, Vlad II was in a pretty much neutral stance between the Ottoman Empire and Romania, but some asshole convinced him to join forces on a crusade against the Ottoman. Unfortunately, he was captured by the Ottomans, but even though Vlad II can negotiate with the Sultan, he let his two kids, including Vlad the Impaler, be hostages in exchange for him to be released. And to escalate the situation, he assumed that the boys were killed by Ottomans, even though they were unharmed. Ivan the Terrible had some issues with his anger management. He beats his 9 children out of nowhere when they were kids. Despite this hateful behavior, Ivan the Terrible seems too jumpy to see his own grandkids. So he made his eldest son, who was also named Ivan, marry and make a child ASAP. This did not happen quickly, as Ivan the Terrible accused the younger Ivan's first 2 wives sterile and eventually banished them to a convent. The 3rd wife, however, was able to conceive a child. In 1581, Ivan the Terrible beats the 3rd pregnant wife for wearing revealing clothes, and this caused a miscarriage. The younger Ivan confronts him, but Ivan the dad changes the topic, accuses him of rebellion, and strikes his head with a scepter that kills him. Before the end of the year 1987, a retired military serviceman murdered a total of 16 people, 14 of whom are family members, over the course of a week. Ronald Simmons Sr. was charged with 16 counts of murder and was found guilty. Even though he will be executed, Simmons declined to appeal his death sentence. Among his victims are his daughter, whom he sexually abused, and a kid he had fathered with her. After his execution, the body wasn't claimed by any of his relatives. Joseph Stalin was one of the well-known individuals during World War II. Clouded by his power, Stalin forgot about his son, Yakov. He always denies affection and doesn't really care about his son. First, he opposes Yakov's marriage with a Jew. Then he teases Yakov for not aiming well after failing to commit suicide. And even if Yakov was captured by the Nazi, Stalin refused to exchange him for a Nazi field marshal. Stalin even assumes that all that was captured by the Nazis, including his son, are traitors to Russia. Yakov was to be executed after Stalin refused the Nazis' proposal of exchanging prisoners. But some argue that Yakov dies on his own terms after running into an electric fence installed around the concentration camp. Stalin had another son, Vasily, whom he had failed to support emotionally after her wife shot herself when Vasily was only 11 years old. Vasily became an alcoholic and lived under Stalin's unmatched fatherhood. Some accounts state that Vasily stutters horribly whenever in front of his father. Constantine the Great was a Roman emperor between 306 and 337 AD, and he wasn't a great dad. He had 2 wives and 6 kids. During the campaigns, Constantine's eldest son, Crispus, was always on his side assisting him in military operations. Because of this, Crispus is fit to inherit the throne and was ready to continue what his father started. But one day, Constantine got mad and ordered his son to be executed with no clear motive. What's more is that he made Crispus' name erased from all official records, along with the demolition of statues dedicated to him. The reason for Crispus' execution is still up for debate up to this date. Herod the Great was a tyrant that appears both in history and in the Bible. He had his position as the king of the independent kingdom of Judea through the support of the Roman Empire from 37 to 4 BC. He built a number of structures which elevated the lifestyle of those under his rule. In the Bible, Herod was depicted as a king that massacred a bunch of kids in order to kill the infant Jesus. In history, the only execution he performed was for some of his several family members, including 3 of his sons and his wife. Herod died due to unexplained painful death. Marvin Gay Sr. was the father to the Prince of Soul, Marvin Gay. Marvin Gay Sr. had a bitter relationship with his son, even though he was a minister at a local church. Gay Sr. was an alcoholic, which eventually discontinued his church work. In 1984, young Marvin was shot by his father while trying to intervene between a quarrel of his parents. Considering the fact that some of the Ottomans back in the Middle Ages have their own way of nobility, Suleiman the Magnificent did not hesitate to grab all the power for him. He did transform Constantinople to Istanbul and expand the Ottoman Empire, but he also accused his eldest son and the heir Mustafa of treason. The intelligence of Mustafa was used as a threat to scare Suleiman. This eventually leads to Mustafa's execution along with some of his brothers and some grandkids. This whole event sparked controversy during their time, as people did not expect a family feud over great empirical success. With a genuine passion for people, Frederick William I of Prussia built an extravagant civilization that is overflowing of wealth. Even if he had an unparalleled military skills, Fred I never started any war. He only focused on keeping Prussia economically balanced. However, his son Frederick II, who is also known as Frederick the Great, is his complete opposite. His passion is rather in philosophy and music. Even though his father wanted him to study through the methods of religion, the young Fred managed to acquire a secret library full of poetry and philosophy materials. He then had a deep relationship with his tutor Hans Hermann von Katt and decided to get out of Prussia. But unfortunately, they were caught. Young Fred was then forced to watch the beheading of his best friend. Being a father of 14, Peter the Great was not much of a great dad. Some of those kids that he had with 2 wives died young. Peter's eldest son Alexei learned to hate him so much despite an early age, as he sees how Peter maltreats his mother. As he grew older, Alexei continued to defy Peter, refusing successor duties. He insisted that he only wants to have a normal life, away from royalty. This angered Peter, which made him accuse Alexei of rebellion, conspiring for his murder, even though no evidence was brought up. Alexei was found guilty and was sentenced to death. But before he was executed, Alexei died from the torture his father ordered to.